We're building great schools in poor communities, and we're doing it profitably. This is Season 1, Episode 5 of Let's Build a Startup. In this episode, we're crafting a pitch tailored to investors. So we need to raise enough capital that we can build our first school and the first chunk of our digital curriculum. And we're going to go into the analysis and design and thought process behind the pitch, but if you just want to see the final result, you can skip ahead to the end of the video. All right, so let's talk a little bit about pitches. So in the middle here, you have your beautiful business. And your business, there's a lot of nuance to it and a lot of details, and you could go on for hours about all the cool things about your business. But unfortunately, most people are just not going to listen to you for an hour, okay, or hours. And so we need something that is, a minute or 2 minutes at most, that is compelling enough, that shows all the most interesting parts of the business to at least get a longer conversation with that person. And you're going to have to build different pitches for different stakeholders, right? Because different people care about different things. And so what kind of stakeholders do we have? First we have investors. And, these are the folks that we're building this video for today. Then you have your users. And we're building schools. And so our users are students and parents. Then we have the customers. And notice that, I separated users and customers, and that's because we're building charter schools. So in a charter school, the state is the one that pays the tuition for the kids. So the person paying the money and the person using the product is not the same person. And you want to be very mindful when that's the case, because that means you actually have to build different pitches to target each of these groups separately. All right, the next stakeholder is the government. And the reason I'm putting this separately is, because the government is also our customer. But the reason I'm putting this separately is because the government is also the one that is in charge of issuing us the charter. So basically giving us a permit to run this school. And they also might have interests, non-monetary interests in having our schools expand or not expand or preventing our schools, whatever. They have non-monetary interests in our school system. And so that's why we put them as a separate stakeholder. And finally, we have folks like school unions and districts. And the reason that we put these here is that these are essentially the incumbents. So they already have a way of doing things, and we're trying to do things substantially differently. And so we expect that we might face some resistance from them. And so what we want to do essentially is align our business so that we actually want the support of the school unions. So we're going to have that in the back of our heads as we're building this business. All right, so each of these stakeholders, we're going to have to craft different pitches for them at various points in our business, because we're going to need each of them to come on board and help us. But today we're going to focus on investors. And so with investors, you essentially have two types. So one is dumb money. Now, this is not saying anything about the investor being dumb. This is just referring to the fact that these investors are not going to offer any kind of expertise or anything outside of the financial investment to help your business. And then we have the smart money. And smart money is the opposite of dumb money. So these are folks that have expertise or maybe a large network or something that can help your business in some way to give you an edge over any competing business. And so we need to think through, what is the smart money for our business? So we are building schools with a digitized curriculum. And what are the risks? So one of the risks is, based on everything we've seen so far, there is a lot of bureaucracy to navigate to set up a school. And we want to smooth that out as much as possible. And so if we can find somebody who is familiar with the terrain, who has experience in building schools, then that would be very helpful. And so what is the closest thing to, some very rich entity that has experience navigating the bureaucracies around schools? The closest I can think of is maybe endowment funds or like school presidents or something like that. So we're going to put endowments and school presidents. All right. The next risk that we have is that we are building, one of the things that we're trying to do is build a digitized curriculum where there are videos for early childhood learning, but we want those videos to be extremely entertaining. So that the kids will actually voluntarily watch them in their free time. And I am not an entertainer. So my background is in software. My YouTube channel right now, we're getting like four views per video. So we really do not have a background to be able to entertain well, at least for now. So we will get better, but that is definitely a risk in the business. And so what we would like is somebody who does have a very strong background in entertainment, because they would be able to do a much better job in building these videos for kids. And so who is rich and has a strong background in entertainment? That's basically celebrities. All right. And the final group of investors that I think would be helpful to our business outside of just monetarily are, remember, one of the core parts of our curriculum is entrepreneurship. So we want to instill entrepreneurial learning into the curriculum from age 4, so that kids get exposed to the energy that entrepreneurs and business leaders and community leaders, the energy that those people bring. We want the kids to mimic that, the way that they do things. And so ideally we'd have somebody come in and talk to the kids about what they do for once a week. And in order to do that well, we need a large pool of entrepreneurs to draw from. We need folks that are very well connected to other entrepreneurs. And roughly that is startup incubators and venture capital firms. All right. So these are the 4 types of investors we're going to look at. And let's talk about what parts of our business is going to be most appealing to each type of investor. So the easy one that appeals to everybody is profit. So it's a very important one. Profit. The next one is for celebrities, and a little bit for the other two, but for celebrities in particular, their brand is very important. So they want to, they're building their brand and they want to be associated with things that they perceive will improve their brand. And we think that building great schools is something that is, pretty much any celebrity will want to be associated with building great schools. And so we think we can offer, one of the things we can offer for their investment is their brand will improve. And they can almost allocate part of that investment as being just a marketing expense. All right. And again, that applies a little bit to endowments and school presidents, and a little bit to incubators and VC firms, but much more to celebrities than the other two. The other thing we can offer, and this only applies to incubators and VC firms, is deal flow. And one of the problems with VC firms is they want to make sure that they have access to the best founders. So they are constantly trying to find ways for founders to come to them so that they have the opportunity to invest in them. And remember, we are building a school where we teach entrepreneurial skills from a very young age. From age 4, we're starting to teach kids about companies and how to run them and how to build them. And that means, we're not trying to get every student to be an entrepreneur. I don't think that's realistic. But a substantially higher portion of our graduates will end up building companies. And the ones that do will be much more successful at it because we've taught them all these skills over the years. And so we can make it very public for the investors that build those schools for them. We can make it very public and very well known. Hey, this is the investor that built your school. And so when that student graduates, they will know exactly who it was that helped them with their education. And that's who they'll go to first to raise money from. Now, the other way that we can help with deal flow is through this channel. So this is a little bit of a joke because our most recent video has only 4 views, but we do expect that more entrepreneurs will start watching this channel as we publish more and more content. And when that happens, because we are building everything in the open, the investment that goes into these schools is going to be completely open. And so entrepreneurs will see that these investors are willing to pursue very ambitious projects. And so those most ambitious entrepreneurs from our audience, they'll go to those investors to raise money from them in the future. So we really think we can help investors with deal flow. Now, there's one more thing that we can do for celebrities, and that is content. And if you think about somebody like Mr. Beast, he's really found a way to do social good while being able to profit off of the back end from the content. So he'll go and give 1,000 people eye surgeries to fix their blindness, and that might cost a few $1,000,000, but the video that he makes from it makes more in advertising and merch sales than the cost of those eye surgeries. And so we think we can do the same thing, at least for the first school, is we can come up with a clever way to make the content be really good. And the ideas I've had around this are we would take something that is very ambitious, like a really ambitious goal, where we are a clear underdog, where just all the odds are stacked against us. And then if we succeed, I think that would just make really good content. And the specific goal that I have in mind for the first year of our school is we teach 3-year-olds to read. This is something where anybody that's had a 3-year-old knows that this is a difficult task. And then if you layer on top of that the fact that we're doing it for an entire classroom, and if you layer on top of that this classroom is in one of the poorest neighborhoods in the United States, we think that this could really make a great story. So you can imagine the YouTube title being something like, "We taught 100 3-year-olds in Detroit how to read." All right, so now let's move on to the skeleton of the pitch itself. So first, we're going to do an intro. Then, so who am I? What am I? What's my background? Then we're going to talk about the problem that we're solving. And so this will roughly be, 52% of adults are functionally illiterate, like they're below grade 7 and below education. And, there's you can pretty much triple or 30% boost to lifetime income by becoming literate. So it's a very important problem to solve, very valuable. Number 3 is, what is our solution? So what are we doing to solve the problem? And so here we're going to talk about the digital curriculum. We're going to talk about lots of one-on-one time with the kids. One-on-one time with kids. And we're going to talk about just cutting out some of the middlemen, some of the software companies, a lot of the books. So we just want to funnel as much money as possible into the teachers so we get the best teachers. So all the money goes to teachers. All right. So next, we're going to do a demo. So demo. And here, so I taught my son using this curriculum how to read when he was 2 years old. And so he just turned 3, and so I'm going to show a demo of just him using the system and of him reading. And I think that's impressive enough that we can gain some credibility, even though we are a nobody on YouTube. So, son using the system. All right, and then after that, we're going to talk about how we make money. So all of this is wonderful if, we have a great solution, but if we can't make money doing it, there's no reason for them to invest. And so how do we make money? And so there's 2 ways that we're going to pitch. One is the school building itself. So essentially, the investor is going to fund building the school. So we're going to buy a building and renovate it and make it nice and with all kinds of equipment. And the charter school is a nonprofit that will essentially lease that building to operate the school. And based on some rough numbers that I've seen in poor communities, the cap rates on that are pretty insane. And so I think we can attract investors with that. And the second way, so the first way is the school building. And the second way is what I call the community flip. So the problem with the school building is it doesn't generate that much revenue. So it's the margins are very good, but the total revenue is kind of small. And so, it's on the order of $1 million per building. And so if we want to grow revenue to a really large number, we would have to build schools in multiple communities. And each one, there's a lot of paperwork and overhead involved in building that school. And so we really want to be able to make as much as possible off of each individual school. And so for that, we have this thing called the community flip. And it essentially works the same way as house flipping. So with house flipping, you buy an ugly house that has like, bad paint or ugly wallpaper, whatever, and you finish the floors, you make the walls nice and modern, you paint them, you update the appliances, and then you sell it for a lot more than the investment that you put in just by making it nicer. And we're going to do the same thing with a community. So we're going to go in, we're going to buy, let's say 10% of the houses in a community. So let's call it $20 million in a poor community where the average house price is $100,000 and the best school is like a 1 out of 10 or a 2 out of 10. And then we're going to build a great school, so a 9 or 10 out of 10 school. And we expect that just doing that within 5 years, we can get the property prices of the entire neighborhood up to the national median, so about $300,000. And so that means that we've tripled our money on the housing within 5 years, which is, it's quite a good rate of return, so about 20%. And the other cool thing is that it's a negative carry. So that means that for as long as you're holding these houses, you're actually earning money. It's very easy to cash flow in poorer neighborhoods to find cash flowing properties. And so if it takes a little bit longer than 5 years, then it's not a big deal because we don't have to pay to hold those houses. And number 6 is going to be, how much money do we need and what are we going to spend it on? How much do we need? All right, so roughly we need $1 million for engineering and design for the curriculum. We need roughly $500,000 for the content. So making the videos. We need $500,000 for the building, for the school. We need $500,000 for renovations. We need $300K for the first class of students because we are aiming to teach 3-year-olds. Charter schools actually don't cover that young of an age group. And so we want this really impressive result because at the end of the year, if we can deliver a really impressive result on 3-year-olds, we'll get in the news, we'll be able to raise more funding that will allow us to fund everything else. And so we want $300K for the first class of 3-year-olds. And call it $200K for overhead. All right, so tell them how much we need. And in the last part of the pitch, I'm going to be trying to build as much credibility as possible by committing to move me and my family to one of these neighborhoods that are really poor and actually sending my own kids to the school. So I really want to demonstrate that I have a high conviction that this curriculum will work. All right, so that's a rough outline of our pitch, and that's supposed to cover the profit portion of our plan. So we really want to be as convincing as possible that we can build a successful business and that it will make money. But for the smart money, we're going to go more than that. So we want to, again, we have other advantages that we can offer, and we want to demonstrate those to the smart money. There are two specific people that we want to have on board if we can. And those two people are Mr. Beast and Jason Calacanis. And the reason we want them is Mr. Beast has a long track record of building great entertaining content and specifically aimed at young kids. And his worldview is very close to mine, which is he has found a very clever way to do social good and profit off the back end. And we want to do the same thing. And so I think there'd be a great partnership there. And then Jason Calacanis is very well connected to other founders. And so we think he'd be able to, essentially we could use his network to recruit founders to come and talk to these kids. And at the same time, he's expressed interest in education and pursuing a solution to education in some of his podcasts. And so we think there's a good partnership there as well. So now let's talk about our strategy to recruit these two to come and invest. So we're actually going to target Mr. Beast first. And I think if we get Mr. Beast, then JCal will also be on board. And the way that we're going to target Mr. Beast, this is very unconventional. Normally, you want to pitch as many investors as possible because that allows you to negotiate better on the terms. And we're still going to do that. So we're going to pitch as many investors as possible, but we're going to target Mr. Beast specifically. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to serenade him. And we're going to serenade like we've never serenaded before. So the way Mr. Beast got started is he would do these stunt videos where he'd like count from 1 to 100,000, or he'd spend 24 hours underwater or something like that. And we're going to do something in the same style where we're going to do a pitch video for Mr. Beast specifically every day for 100 days in a row. And if he still hasn't responded by the last day, we'll do something stunt-worthy to get his attention. And there's actually a secondary benefit to doing it this way, which is that it will allow me to create short-form content on this channel, hopefully to recruit viewers, because right now we have a problem that we have only long-form content, and I'm just some nobody on YouTube, so there's no reason to come and watch me. And so we're hoping that by doing it 100 times and doing short-form, right, 1-minute pitches, that it will target our audience. So we want entrepreneurs to come and watch this channel, and so we think we can recruit entrepreneurs through short pitches, and it'll flex our creative muscles because we have to do this pitch 100 times and it has to be different every time. So it'll really get us thinking outside of the box, and it'll help me get better at YouTube, because with these long form videos, I'm posting once a week, and so the iteration speed is very slow and they take a long time to edit. And with these smaller videos, I can create them a lot quicker and get feedback on a much tighter time scale. And so I think we can improve our own skills. Even if Mr. Beast doesn't end up agreeing, we can improve our own skills, and so there's benefit to it there. All right, so now we're just gonna practice the base pitch that we want to show all investors. So this is gonna probably take a few hours of practice to get the 2-minute video. And starting tomorrow, we're gonna be uploading once a day a pitch to target Mr. Beast to be an investor. So we're about 4 hours into editing our pitch video, and unfortunately, we're nowhere near our 2-minute target. We're still at about 13 minutes, which I think is way too long. But in the spirit of openness, we're going to upload that video as a separate video, so you can see the whole pitch. It's a 13-minute pitch, and we'll show the iteration. So that's the first iteration, and next week, or maybe the week after, we'll post a fine-tuned version that maybe cuts down the time in half. And so you can see the progress as we iterate on our pitch. All right, so we'll see you next time on Let's Build a Startup.